How important are friendships to you and why?
Well, they're super important. That is our support group.
I spend most of my time with my friends.
The older I get, the more important they are.
Friendship is real important. You can't go through this world without friendship.
The older I get, the more lasting friendships I enjoy.
All right. Do you find that it's harder now to make friends that you're getting older?
No, much easier.
Oh no, it's easier. Really. It really is. I've got a lot more to talk about now.
When I was younger, I was shy. So it was harder then than it is now.
People seem to be more outgoing at my age for some reason.
Do you find that it's harder for you to make friends as you age?
Yes.
Why?
I'm not out as much the older I've got.
That's the reason why I'm at this expo today, to mingle and mix with people.
And I think as we age, it's harder to find friends. Oftentimes our connections come through our children. So I think it's so important to belong to a senior center or clubs or a church group, whatever it takes to connect with other people. I think it's vital.
And I bet you don't have trouble making friends, do you?
Oh no, I got the gift for gab. Most women do.
When I went to the Senior Expo and we recorded those comments, we talked to a lot of people and got a lot of answers, but I will say that to a person, on that first question, everybody said that friendships, they're very important, very important. And I'm sure all of you would say the same thing. But here's my question to you. We know they're very important, but how important are they? Are friendships more important in your 70s and 80s versus your 20s or 30s?
Friendships are important at any age, but I think as you get older, they become incredibly important. And one of the reasons is because we need to be able to communicate with somebody who's a peer, somebody who understands what we're talking about when we say things that happened a while back. We need that.
Basically, the conversations are much more in depth and non-threatening because as we age, we get very honest. We don't have to worry about what other people might think.
Now, why is that?
We don't have to satisfy a boss. We're very independent as we get older. And we have our views, so we respect each other's views.
Well, let's talk about that in the second question that I asked them. I asked them, is it harder to make friends now that you're older versus when you were younger? And that was a mixed bag of answers on that. So I'll ask all of you, is it harder to make friends as you age?
I don't think it is. It just depends on where you're going, where you have the opportunities to make new friends. I think in your faith community, it's very easy. Your neighborhood, probably easy. Some of your social friends that you used to see just a little bit, now you see more often because they're retired too.
But it could be harder, could it not? Because we've lost those connections that we had at work, the connections that the one woman mentioned, her children, finding friends through the parents of children. I mean, you reach a retirement age and suddenly you've lost all of that normal contact. So don't you have to work harder?
Well, I think that's a great point. I think any friendship requires work. And I like to use my late mother-in-law as a great example. She was in her 70s when she passed, and at her funeral there were probably 700 or 800 people. And the pastor said, if you've received a note from June Bailey in your lifetime, raise your hand. And I think everybody in the whole place raised their hand. She wrote handwritten notes. And in this day with emails and Twitter and all that sort of communication, taking the time to work on friendship with a handwritten note means so much. So just like at any age, friendship does take work, and it doesn't change when you get older.
The one gentleman said that he found it easier to make friends because, for some reason, he said people were more outgoing as they age. Do you find that to be true?
I think so. I think we lose some of, as Bob said earlier, I think we lose some of our inhibitions as we get older. Our defense mechanisms are a little different, and I think we value people in some ways more because we've learned through the years how to value, and we didn't have that at the very beginning.
I think we recognize as you get older that time is marching on, and it's important to be much more accepting of people. And I think that's one of the reasons we get so many friends as we get older.
And you don't get caught up in all the little things, that to worry about when you get older.
Like what? What would be specific?
People have their views, and you can laugh about some of the views, and you come back with your own funny view on something, but you don't make a judgment on the person, what kind of person they are. You know, it's a more honest relationship, I think, when you get older.
You're more open to be outgoing.
To changes.
Perhaps that's
And it's okay to be a curmudgeon.
It's okay. He has a great excuse, doesn't he?
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think we don't, as we age, we're probably more set in our ways, and we're less susceptible to peer pressure. You know, I've got 3 teenage daughters, and I'm sure that many of their friends now will be friends for lives, but I'm sure that a lot of them won't be, that they'll make additional friends over their lifetime, but friends that will have more in common with them from a deeper side, maybe even from a spiritual side. So I think friends as you age become increasingly important and more like you. I think you hang around people that are most like you.
In working with seniors, when we have a senior that is at home and isolated, even with a caregiver, it might be better for them to be in assisted living because they're totally isolated away from people. And it's amazing how many families, their loved ones flourish by going into a living facility that they choose, and they see what's going on with the activities, and there's staff there that are trained to bring people together.
You know, scientists tell us that loneliness in old age is a health hazard. I mean, a physical hazard to lead to depression, you know, heart problems, all sorts of higher blood pressure, all sorts of issues. I'm curious to see if you've seen that in your work.
I definitely have seen it. When you have 2 people with dementia getting together, they get to be friends. They don't know each other's name, and this conversation doesn't necessarily go with this conversation, but they know that they're socializing, and they have big smiles on their face, and they miss each other.
Do you think that, you mentioned it's a social interaction, is it friendship by the definition we know?
I think it is a friendship because they depend on talking to each other. They depend on sharing, just maybe not understanding what they're sharing.
Not sharing the same way that we would interpret sharing. Yeah.
But it's filling that gap, and I think that's what you're saying. You know, whatever that gap is in your life, you fill it with a friend. So whatever definition of friendship is, I think it's more importantly as you get older, the filling of that gap.
Let's talk about the boomer generation a second, because I think, well, I'm curious to know, do you think the friendship equation with boomers is going to be different as they age versus parents and grandparents?
I think you'll be able to see that they can stay connected even if they are not physically in the same, you know,
social
place.
Media?
Yeah, social media.
How important do you think that's going to be in the future?
Extremely important.
Really?
Well, you take your cell phone, and it doesn't cost you anything to make a long distance phone call. True. You can talk to anybody anywhere in the world.
But now you've got Facebook friends and real friends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are the Facebook friends just as valuable?
I think so because of what Ken just said a moment ago about his mother-in-law, and that is that handwritten note was huge. It was unique to her, and it was huge. Well, in the same way, I think with Facebook you have to write, and sometimes we're a little bit bolder about what we write, even if we think other people can see it. It sort of lends itself to our personality. So I think that connectiveness is important.
Yeah, let me give you a great example of that. Today happens to be my birthday. And
happy birthday!
No gifts, please.
Don't worry
I do
about
like
that.
socks and underwear. I have 35 emails that I noticed I had when I came in here, and I haven't looked at them yet, but I can't wait to have time during the day to see who wished me happy birthday on Facebook. Yeah. It's just that, it's a way we communicate now so often is social media. And I won't reply to them all because it would take a lot of time. But also I will send out a general reply and thank everybody for their happy birthday wishes. So social media is very important now, and particularly to boomers, I think it will continue to be.
Well, it could be an interesting future for all of us as we age and as we make and find friends. I'm going to close out with that quote from the famous philosophers and poets Lennon and McCartney, who said, "I get by with a little help from my friends." Thank you all for being on The Best Times.
Thank you for having us.